Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk all about things that I wish I had known before having a baby. Now this is not going to be just all the normal stuff that people know about, like, you know, sleep deprivation, etc. This is gonna be the things that no one actually talks about, no one tells you. And I did so much research before I had a baby. I watched so many videos, I was trawling through YouTube, like you probably are at the moment, trying to find some actual useful information. I've collated together all of the things that I basically didn't find in other people's videos. This is not the normal stuff, but it's so crucial. All the points that I make in this video, and if there's any links, I'm going to put them in the description, so you don't need to be writing down notes as you go. You can just look at the description and any info will be there. Just in case you are new, my name is Charlie. I am a first-time mum. I have a baby girl who is just over 12 weeks old now. She's asleep at the moment. She'll probably wake up halfway through this video. Also, before we get started, everything in this video is my personal experience. I'm obviously not a medical professional, so this is all just stuff that I went through, and it's just my experience and kind of stuff that I personally wish I had known or someone had told me, just to make things easier. This might be a little bit of a long video. I recommend going and grabbing a cup of tea, so pause now. Right, I'm gonna dive straight in with the biggest topic. And the number one thing I wish I'd been told before having a baby was about breastfeeding. Now, I'm gonna do a whole video on breastfeeding because it's a massive topic, but I'm just gonna say a couple of things now that really would have helped me if I'd known. And the first thing is that it is called a journey for a reason. It has taken me, well, 3 months. We're at 12 weeks now, and only a couple of weeks ago did I actually get breastfeeding properly established. And there were many times when I wanted to give up, and it can take a really long time. Obviously, everyone's different, and some people will just write out day 1, day 2. It'll just be natural and it just happens. But I didn't hear enough stories when I was kind of researching it about when it might take a bit longer.
Well, this isn't quite exactly how I pictured it being, but yeah, we're 4 weeks in and still trying to master the breastfeeding palaver.
For me, the one thing that I really wish I'd known was that if it doesn't happen in the first couple of days, even couple of weeks, to not panic about it, because it still can work. You can still get it going, you can still establish a routine. And I had problems with, first of all, my milk not coming in because I had an unplanned C-section. Then I had problems with getting her to latch. And then I had problems with the pain. So it was just, yeah, it was a big thing. As I said, I'm gonna do a whole video on that at some point and tell you my story about it, because anything I can do to help someone else. Number 2, you do not need your nursery set up before the baby arrives. I know that there's this kind of Instagram pressure to have everything looking beautiful and set up and all like, oh, the baby's going to arrive, I'm going to bring her into this perfectly decorated, organized nursery. You don't need to have done that for when the baby arrives. I actually felt the pressure to make sure I had like the decorations and all this sort of stuff ready to go. It's completely unnecessary. And the reason for that is the baby will be in with you in the bassinet. They will be sleeping next to you for the first, well, I think it's about 6 months of their life. And especially in my situation, I wasn't even like playing with her in the nursery. It wasn't like we take her to a different area to go and play with her. We have her in a little play dome thing. We call it the Nemo because it's a Finding Nemo themed activity center. Again, this is my personal setup, but I'm just saying this because I did feel the pressure to have everything ready to go before the baby arrives, and it's totally not necessary at all. You do not have to have the full-blown nursery setup. Number 3, prepare for the 4th trimester as much as you prepare for the pregnancy and birth. trust me, once the baby arrives, you're not really going to have any time to do your reading and just researching what to expect in the 4th trimester. And I think a lot of people basically forget to just be aware of what to expect, what could happen, just so it's not such a shock. For example, I had no idea about the night sweats. It was one of my friends that told me, just offhand, just said, oh, by the way, just be prepared that you'll probably get like night sweats. And I had no idea really what that entailed, because I just thought, oh yeah, that'll just be like, you know, getting a bit sweaty or whatever. No, it's literally soaking the bed. You've got so much excess water, and with the hormone balances all out of whack, basically, it's hectic, and I can't even remember how long it lasted for, but I was so pleased that she had told me, because I just wouldn't have known what was going on. I would have thought there was something seriously wrong with me with the amount I was sweating. I was waking up completely drenched. And again, this is pretty normal for the 4th trimester. And I hadn't done a whole lot of research into it. So I'd done research into what happens directly after the birth, but not maybe a couple of weeks down the line. So I definitely recommend making sure you're aware of what could possibly happen in that 12 weeks after the birth. Tip number 4 is don't buy any clothes before the baby is born. I know you are not going to listen to this, because I didn't listen to it and it's all too exciting going out and buying baby clothes, but everyone will give you baby clothes. You will have way too many clothes. They grow so fast that clothes just get passed around from like family to family, and you know, you can get them off Facebook Marketplace, etc. There's always so many clothes. And as I said, you won't listen, because I didn't listen. I totally wanted to buy clothes. So I recommend just buy 1 or 2 little outfits just for the excitement. If you want to be buying lots of things for the baby in advance, buy other things like books. And this leads me into the next tip, tip number 5, which is actually get some toys. Now, I had no idea basically that after the first 5 weeks, when the baby switches from being a sleeping, eating, pooing machine, they suddenly need entertaining, and they're suddenly more alert, and they're looking around, and they need engagement. But at this point, we didn't buy any toys, because I stupidly thought babies don't need toys. Like, what's a newborn baby gonna do with a toy? They don't do anything with it. So we didn't have any. And again, it's one of those things, people don't buy you toys for like presents. Don't know why. It's just, you know, they just tend to not, or maybe it was just my experience. Maybe we just didn't get given any actual toys. But yeah, get a few toys, just a few little things, like a few little rattles and just sensory things. And we have a really cool tummy time mat that's got water in it. It's like a sensory one that my little baby Alexis loves. I bought some new toys the other day because Big W had a sale on. So we got Nelly. It's like touchy-feely. It has these amazing bits here that she can teeth on when she starts teething. I got some more O-balls, which are good for when she can like grab, because it's just light and it's really easy for her to grab. Also, on that note, don't waste your money on baby shoes. I'm gonna let you into a little secret. Babies don't walk. They don't need shoes. Total waste of money. It's pretty much like baby socks. Baby socks don't stay on. The only thing that baby socks are useful for are mittens. We put them on our hands as mittens to stop her scratching, because mittens don't stay on. The next tip again came from a friend and was super useful. It was about setting boundaries for visitors when the baby arrives. Now, doing this in advance, it made it clear to everyone for expectations, so everyone wasn't disappointed, especially since we're in the middle of a pandemic at the moment while I'm filming this. It's already a very stressful time, and having the added stress, especially if, like me, you're a hosty sort of person, if you love hosting and you feel pressure to have the house looking immaculate and, you know, providing snacks and all this sort of stuff. The piece of advice that someone gave me to just set those boundaries in advance was really, really great for me personally, because it took the pressure off. I had specified that no one was to turn up unannounced. That included close family, you know, anybody, because I didn't want someone just rocking up at the door and I'm in the middle of a difficult breastfeed and it's stressful, and, you know, new mums, there's so much pressure, and it's tiring, and the added stress of family can be a bit too much. And obviously you want your family to come and enjoy the baby too, and it's all very special, but just on your terms. Does that make sense? It can be a bit tricky and a bit awkward, so setting the boundaries out, just send a little email round, just make sure you're clear, really helps with the stress levels. And that was just a great tip that I had from a friend, and it made me feel comfortable. It made me feel like I wasn't gonna feel guilty if someone did just turn up unannounced. I could just be like, I'm sorry, this is my little baby bubble time for me and my new family. Please don't ruin it by making me stressed out. It's getting quite warm underneath these lights. Let's put my hair up in a minute. So the next tip is something that's very specific to me, and it's about establishing a shift pattern with your partner if you can for sleeping. For example, in the early days, me and my husband started a sort of shift pattern where he would stay up with the baby in the evening for the last play session, and I would go to bed so that I could get a big chunk of sleep before the next feed. When I say big chunk, I mean like 3 hours. And then I would get up and do the morning shift and let him sleep in. And doing that made the whole thing just a little bit more tolerable in that first 6 weeks. But as I said, that was very specific because we were feeding her expressed breast milk from a bottle. However, she then stopped taking the bottle halfway through when I was trying to establish the breastfeeding, and now she's fully breastfed. So now there's no shift system at all, because whenever she needs feeding, I have to be up.
It's 3:30 a.m. halfway through the feed.
So that tip is for if you have the ability to do shifts, or if you have someone helping you, just start thinking about that in advance and preparing, like what if one of you is better staying up late and one of you is better in the morning, try and work it around that. It just was something that we didn't start doing until I guess a couple of weeks in, and it just really, really helped. The next tip is quite specific as well, and it's about getting your head around the fact that your sole job is to look after the new baby. I think being a first-time mum myself, it took me a very long time to get my head around the fact that that was what I was now kind of doing. I'd come from a background of just being extremely busy, running lots of different things, working on big movie productions, being very busy, and then running a YouTube channel and running another business on the side, just doing lots of things. And then suddenly I just was looking after a baby, and it was just very difficult to get my head around that, and I wasn't prepared for that at all because no one had really spoken about that before, and it's not something you can really prepare for. But yeah, if you can start thinking about it before the baby arrives and start getting your head around this, it makes it a little bit easier, I think, if that makes any sense. The next one is something that most people did tell me, and that is to have a plan for everything, I guess, but be prepared to divert from the plan. So when it comes to the birth, have a birth plan, have an idea, do the research, know what you would like to ideally happen, but really get your head around the fact that that might not happen. I didn't do this. I had a plan and I just thought to myself, oh yeah, it'll go to plan-ish, you know, and it totally did not go to plan in the slightest. Nothing went to plan for me. That first 6 weeks was so difficult because it was so different to how I'd imagined it. And even though everyone has said to me, you know, just be prepared to be flexible and etc., but I just really wasn't actually prepared. I didn't think it would happen to me. I didn't think I'd have an unplanned cesarean, I didn't think breastfeeding would be such a struggle and I wouldn't be able to do it for a couple of weeks. You know, there was a lot of things that I just wasn't prepared for. I just kind of thought, oh, well, this is the plan. I'm sure it'll go to plan. That was how I was thinking. And I think I would have been more prepared if I had actually really thought about it and really thought, how am I going to feel if I have to have a cesarean section? What are the complications of that, like emotionally and mentally? I just didn't think about any of that. For example, the fact that I was in a lot of pain after my cesarean and I couldn't pick the baby up for quite a long time, and that really shook me. Like, I couldn't care for her. I was so lucky to have Tom with me, and he did everything. He cared for her and, you know, gave her all the cuddles and was physically doing everything, changing the nappies, getting her dressed, everything. I couldn't do anything. I could barely hold her. I could barely sit up and move. I was in a complete state, and I hadn't mentally even thought about it. And because it hadn't even crossed my mind, it made it so much harder. So I kind of wish that I had. I wish I'd just gone, just in case, I'll just maybe just think about the scenario of this, if this happens, or how am I gonna feel if I was dead set on breastfeeding, but the baby won't latch? Does that make any sense at all? I hope so. Next two things are baby related that I just didn't know, because again, no one ever talked about it. The first one is, it is normal for a baby to not poo for up to like 10 days. The midwives did tell us that, and it hasn't happened with our baby. It hasn't been 10 days, but I mean, she might go like 3 or 4 days without pooing at all, which is kind of crazy because you always hear the opposite. You're always hearing about, you know, how much babies are pooing and nappy changes and everything like that. And no one ever tells you that there's a possibility the opposite could happen. Obviously, I'm not in the medical profession, but I think it's something to do with the fact that if they're fully breastfed, there's not a lot of waste, so they just don't poo. So that's normal. And the second thing is that you have to be really careful that you are sleeping your baby on both sides of their head and playing with them, and they're turning to both sides. Now, I didn't know about this, and I got told when we went to, we actually ended up at a support house with some midwives to kind of help support us for a couple of days. And they noticed that Alexis was sleeping just one side, and she always slept on one side of her head, and that can actually be really bad for them because then they can get a flat head and the head doesn't develop properly. But I had no idea. We had no idea that that was even a thing, because it's not something you get told. And when a midwife or a health professional comes to check your baby, they're not seeing them sleeping or seeing them playing, so they often might not notice that they're tending to go to one side and not the other. So that's something that's quite important, and it's something that came up in the mums group as well. They were like, oh, I didn't realize that we had to make sure that the baby was sleeping on both sides. Oh, I need my tea. Sorry, I did say this was going to be a fairly long video, but I'm hopeful that it's helping. Anyway, the next tip that I hadn't really thought about and no one told me about was clothes for after the baby arrives. For you. A bit like at the beginning of pregnancy, you can't fit any of your normal clothes you were wearing before, but you also now are too small for all of the maternity ones that you're wearing. Like, I had loads of dresses, but then they obviously just have this big saggy bit where the bump is and they don't fit properly. So I basically had nothing to wear that wasn't my kind of pajamas, my breastfeeding pajamas, like lounge clothes, because I can't fit. I still, after 12 weeks, I'm just gonna put that out there, I'm still after 12 weeks, I cannot fit any of my pre-pregnancy clothes. And to be honest, I think that's pretty normal. And I'm just going with it because honestly, who cares? I haven't bought a whole new wardrobe yet. I have just been slowly buying a few bits and bobs. Like, for instance, right now I'm in a breastfeeding t-shirt that just has easy access kind of thing. You know, I started getting a few more bits and bobs that I feel comfortable in, but it's something that I just didn't think about. It's not really a priority thinking about what you're going to wear after the baby arrives, but yeah, you just end up a bit stuck. Unless you're one of those women who manages to just lose all the weight in a couple of weeks. And I have one friend who has just done that. She said she's back to pre-pregnancy, and I just was like, what? There's absolutely no chance I'm gonna lose any of this weight until, well, I can't even go running yet, so that's not gonna happen for quite a while. But you know, who cares? Just buy new clothes. I can hear the baby stirring, so this is gonna be the very last tip. And that's something that I was told when I went to this support house. And it was about the fact that being a mum, you no longer are looking to get a distinction. You've got to get your head around the fact that not every day or all the time you are not going to just smash it, excel, do amazing. You need to get your head around just getting a pass is good enough. Just keeping the baby alive, ticking over is good enough. And that really hit home with me, because I am one of these people who always wants to do the best they possibly can and really, you know, smash it, do everything amazing, and it's just not possible with a baby. It's just not possible. You have to really lower your standard. Start thinking about the fact that if you just get through the day, you have done it. You have succeeded. And the earlier you can get your head around that concept, the better. Because again, I wasn't thinking like that, and it used to just upset me when things weren't running to plan or things weren't just happening perfectly, and they just won't happen perfectly with a baby. It's just not gonna happen. So you just have to really get your head around that. And that way of describing it, when they said to me, stop trying to get a distinction, just be happy with a pass, that really hit home in my head. I really was like, oh, that's it. That's what I need to do. That's what I need to stop thinking. I need to stop thinking it needs to be amazing, because it doesn't. Some days you will do amazing. You'll just absolutely smash it. Like this morning, I managed to have a shower, have my breakfast, clean the kitchen, and film this video all before 10 o'clock. Yesterday was not the case. Yesterday I barely even got dressed before midday. That's just how it goes when you've got a newborn. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful for you. Please come and chat to me in the comments. If you're a new mom, come and chat to me. I would love to chat about all the things that people never tell you, you know? I think it's really important to just be open and honest. I am always very honest about things, probably a little bit too much information sometimes. If you enjoy too much information, definitely come over to my Instagram channel, because I'm always sharing stories. I've been sharing my whole breastfeeding journey. I've been sharing like everything really. I just like to be completely open and honest in the hope that it will help someone else. If you've made it to this far in the video, thank you so much for watching and supporting. You've supported me by just watching this whole video. If you want to subscribe, I'm going to be sharing lots more mum tips, adventures with the little one, behind the scenes. My husband is a blacksmith, so we do lots of that sort of stuff. We're running a business at the moment, and just general Australia adventures as soon as things open up again. Come join us, come be part of the Pocket and Dundee family, and I will see you very soon.